different step. Effective July 1 of 2012, provide a 2% general pay increase to those employees employed on July 1 of 2011. July 1, 2013, provide a 2% general pay increase to those employees employed on July 1 of 2011. July 1 of 2014, a 2% general pay increase to those employees employed on July 1 of 2011. Effective July 1 of 2011, eliminate all service and longevity increment steps, and additional cash payments for those employees who are at or above the maximum step of their pay scale group.
Brian, could you explain the last one to me, please?
The elimination of the longevity?
Yes, please.
As the contract provides in their pay scale group, they have across the board step movements for annual service, and then they have what's considered longevity steps after a bargaining unit member, after somebody is in the bargaining unit for 5 years, specific to the bargaining unit for 5 years, they start stepping into a longevity structure, which is an equivalent of a 1% increase.
Which we heard a lot about in the union's presentation, as I recall, correct?
Correct.
Okay, go on.
So for a period of time, employees are moving across the scale. They hit 5, they go across and down until they get to the last step going across, which I believe is 7 years. Don't quote me on that, it's in the contract. After that, they continue to just step down in large others. And we're proposing to eliminate that. That's the salary wages proposal.
Thank you.
No firstborn male child?
I already have one of those.
Any questions by the association?
Yes. I'm going to stick to the numbers. So, you have, first of all, let me just clarify, a new employee that's hired after July 1st of 2011, their salary is going to remain at the same for all 4 years.
Correct.
They don't get a step increase, they don't get a general wage increase.
They would, if they're a correction officer trainee, they would get the movement from trainee to CO1.
Okay. So they get one movement over 4 years.
Correct.
All right. And is that a percentage? Do you move from, is it like a 3% move from?
I don't know what the percentage.
It's in the contract. We know it's in the contract. Okay. Now, in addition to those new hirees, there are also, would the health benefit proposals from yesterday also apply to them?
I don't, I mean, without looking at the proposal, what do you mean? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, you've also made a health care proposal, and obviously you're familiar with the presentation that Ms. Long put on yesterday.
Yes.
So she put a proposal in place yesterday that says that, for example, a family member who's making, now she said the average salary was $50,000. She said somebody making that with family coverage would go in the first year from $37.38. The fourth year, she had them going to $102.12.
Okay.
So one of my questions is, does that also apply to a new hiree?
Would what also apply? I'm not sure what your question is. The healthcare provision would apply to
everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So that person only gets one increase from COT to a CO1 of whatever contract provides, but their health care potentially could go from $37 a paycheck to $102 a paycheck.
Okay.
So in essence, they would be getting a negative. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
You do the math that way.
Now let's turn to a CO, all right? You have a CO that's hired before July 1st of 2011. They get -4 the first year. They get 2, 2, and 2 the second, third, and fourth year. Now, over the 4 years, they end up getting 2%.
Correct.
All right. Now that same person, and Ms. Long talked about somebody making $50,000, the average salary being $50,000. That same person goes, if they have family coverage, goes from $37 per paycheck to $102 per paycheck. Now I have that as being an increase. If you do a percentage of salary, I know that you guys want to switch to premium percentage, but If that person is paying 1.5% of salary, I see that going up to 3.5% of salary. So in essence, their health care premiums increase 2%. So for a current employee, if you combine your wage proposal and your health care proposal, they're getting no pay increase. Have you done that calculation?
I'm not sure I'm following exactly. That was a pretty long question.
Okay.
You're saying over the life of the contract. Is that what you're saying?
You said over the life of the contract, it represents a 2% wage increase,
Right.
but with the healthcare increases, by his calculation, that appears to be a 2% increase
Right.
in
Correct.
payment
Okay, I
and
understand.
employee contributions. to
Correct.
healthcare.
Have you
That term
done,
is net
And
negative.
he's asking if you kind of figured that out. Is that
Have I figured it
have you
out?
calculated that? Has anybody
I
done?
personally have not calculated. No.
Has anybody at OA or the Commonwealth done it?
I can't answer that.
Okay. Now, on top of that, you're looking to eliminate longevity, correct?
Correct.
And we haven't gotten to it yet, but I've looked at your proposals. You're also looking, you're also looking to make some reductions in leave benefits, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, in your opinion, is that reasonable, a reasonable proposal?
Is which a reasonable proposal?
What you just made, do you think that's a reasonable proposal?
I think based on the current economic situation that the state faces, it is a reasonable salary proposal in this round of bargaining.
Okay. And that's based upon the presentation of Mr. Nadal or the other?
NATO.
Yeah, NATO.
NATO, our budget office presentation, and it's the same salary proposal that we're providing to all the bargaining units we're in negotiations with right now.
Okay. That budget guy, that's the guy that confirmed that there's a close to $1 billion surplus?
Objection. There's never been any testimony.
There is no surplus. You're talking about whether the deficit is 4.2 billion or 3.7 billion, Todd.
Let me just say this, the record will reflect what it reflects, so I would just ask the panel to look back at the record.
And it reflects what I just said.
Well, no, what it reflects
I
is
respectfully disagree.
tax revenue?
The question
Tax
was
revenue
posed to at least
500
one
million higher
witness.
than projected.
Which will to offset a $4.2 billion deficit.
What do you mean a deficit? There's no budget.
We were approaching the budget year with a $4.2 billion deficit. I don't know how you all do your own household finances, but when the money coming in doesn't meet the expenses going out, you got to cut the expenses.
Can I ask a question, Brian? I assume this proposal overall, you have some kind of cost savings, you have a dollar figure attached to that. So one, what is that? The two, do you have it broken down? Like how much in the first year of the contract by rolling back the wages 4% and eliminating longevity? Do you have those figures on how much that would?
I do not have that.
Okay, but that could be provided to us.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I would say that for kind of each proposal, that's a cutback, if you will, and then over, what the number is over.
Sure.
Was the calculation done?
Was the calculation done? Yes. I believe it was.
Okay. And so, we're trying to close what my friend, Mr. D'Angelo, calls a deficit, which I call a political budget. How can we, as a board of arbitration, rule on anything if we don't know how much it's going to save? Because apparently you guys don't know how much it's going to save.
Absolutely we do. The salary.
Is it a secret?
The salary for the first year would save about $20 million.
$20 million out of, let me think about this. $20 million out of a, what, $23 billion, no, $27 billion budget? Sounds like peanuts to me.
Well, with that logic, you'd never cut a budget. You start with the small items and you build to the big items.
Sir, these are not small items.
We're talking.
These
you're
are people
You're
who
talking
serve
about
the
$22 million, which has a major impact on a budget. And when you multiply that out by the other 70,000 employees in the Commonwealth, this is a significant amount of money. And it is what the taxpayers have been suffering for the last 3 years.
Can I just
Start.
That's all right, I just want to clarify something on the 20 million. Is that the 4% decrease and the longevity
No,
together?
that's just the 4% decrease.
Okay, and that, okay. All right. We interrupted.
Sure. Let me just get back briefly to the training for the new hybrid pay. There were some representations during the proceedings that there's a lot of people on the civil service list and you're not having problems getting new hirees. Do you recall that testimony in general?
Yes.
Now, the academy generally has 60 to 100 trainees at it. Are you aware of that? Okay. Are you aware that the current class has 12 individuals in it?
No.
Is it your opinion that this new wage salary for at least new employees is not going to affect the ability to hire people?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anything from the Commonwealth?
Nothing.
And anything else from the Commonwealth? Okay.
Moving along, our next issue regarding leaves, we had proposed to create a new leave program with decreased earning rates, payout rates, and reasons for using the leave. We're modifying this proposal as follows. To address the continued increase in non-prescheduled call-offs, the Commonwealth is proposing to pay employees at 70% of their regular rate of pay for their fourth and subsequent non-prescheduled absence days. Let me try to give you a brief and quick understanding of the combined leave concept. The leave that this bargaining unit has is called combined leave. It was created back in the late 80s. It's their annual, what you would call your vacation leave, your personal leave, your sick leave, okay, all lumped into one leave bank, okay? The concept being, and the language of the contract supports this, if you pre-schedule your leave, you select it in advance, you let management know that you're taking it in advance. If you earn, for example, if you're an earner of 25 days of combined leave in a year, you can take 25 vacation days. You can go on vacation for 25 days, whether it be in a row or broken up, however that would work. If you're sick 25 days, you can be off sick for 25 days, okay? However, there's a carve-out. Combined leave can be pre-scheduled for any reason. Any reason, I mean, you don't have to say, if you pre-schedule a vacation, you don't have to tell us why. You can go to the moon, you can sit at home on your couch and watch TV. The next part of the contract talks about non-pre-scheduled absences, what's been referred to as CN, okay? They're for emergency reasons. Therefore, you know, you wake up in the morning and you're sick, your child's sick, your spouse is sick, an emergency call-off reason. The concept of combined leave was to limit those, because every time you have a last-minute call-off, it, for the most part, results in an overtime assignment, okay? So therefore, instead of paying your regular rate of pay, we're paying somebody a time and a half. For years, the Commonwealth has been trying to reduce that. It hasn't worked through the combined leave system, okay? You heard the union's presentation to get rid of language that we just got in the Zobrak Award in 2008, where we put another stinger on when people continue to call off, there's a disadvantage. We need you to come to work. If you're going to take off, give us notice so we can plan appropriately. It hasn't worked. And I think if you look at Exhibit 4, it's a whole spreadsheet leave usage over the calendar years 2008, 2002, 2010. And the use of unscheduled call-offs has continued to increase. So we're left with nothing but trying to present a proposal like this to get people to come to work.
If I understand the way it works now, the penalty for the fourth or subsequent non-pre-scheduled absence is they cannot collect overtime.
No, they don't count those hours as hours worked for computing overtime.
For computing. Yeah.
So they would still get overtime if they worked 40 a day under the current contract language, regardless of a C4 or not.
Okay. Yeah, any questions from the association?
You made the statement that you're trying to get people to come to work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you think that